Hi guys, happy Tuesday. Yeah, happy Tuesday. So, okay, so we're going to go into, I really like this, writing plants. So we have writing the familiar, writing the fetch beast, which is the fetch beast, our fetch self as a part of ourselves. So this is more, it does kind of include familiars again. It just keeps popping up everywhere, so it's pretty interesting. And the mandrake root, and just all of this hedge writing between the worlds, and I just thought this would be a really cool little story. So alright, so long before the image of the broomstick riding witch became current in Britain, I like this is interesting stuff, witches rode plants or animals. So we have already talked at length about the occult significance of riding animals, which we have, not physically, metaphorically and metaphysically. So, where to go? We have talked about, how when we ride something, we partake of its powers, are propelled by it, but is also in some way glide on top of it and direct its force. So if we understand this fact, the reason that the witches actually ride things will come to make more sense. So it's really interesting because you're partaking in the power of that particular plant or whatever it is that you're riding. So, now to animistic people, it is not only animals that have a spirit, but plants as well, and that is traditional witchcraft, very much animism. So when we hear about witches riding the ragwort, fennel, sorghum, or ointment lathed broomsticks, or the relationship between fairy magicians and mushrooms, we will better understand what is occurring here. So it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. It's altering the consciousness big time. So it is easy to understand how a witch might fly with the aid of a flying ointment, because the ointments contain powerful narcotics and entheogens. And yeah, I can't take narcotics, so thank the gods. Now the ointments contain powerful I already read that. So what is not often considered, though, is the idea of non-entheogen plant helpers. So this is that of the spirit of ragwort, or the spirit of fennel, was a helper for these witches, and this is why they rode it in a similar way that an aboriginal person might have honey and dance dreaming, or know that the spirit songs of a particular plant that they use for the most of their healing work. I really like the idea of writing plants. I really do. I think it's incredible. So, now fennel, for instance, is famed for its ability to hinder witches from their will. Now, as the Benedante men were inclined to dud the Maledante witches, we would therefore consider that the spirit of the fennel plant was an ally of the Benedanti and other cunning folk who worked on counter magic, hex breaking, and protection from maleficum. So malignant energies and malignant intentions and spells that have been cast on you. Now, things that have this reputation usually have a corresponding benevolent physical action. Sage, associated in many cultures with a spiritual cleansing, it is also an antiseptic. The same goes for salt. So, garlic, which has such potent effects against vampires and all negative magic, also turns out to be one of the strongest antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal plants. So it's really getting into the science of the plant as well as the metaphysics of the plant. Now, similarly, with fennel, its actions in soothing the digestion, particularly in infants, and increasing the lactation in nursing mothers, helps us to see why its spirit would be understood to be benevolent and productive. So it's just really, really interesting to take this into consideration and actually, put this into practice. Now, ragwort, on the other hand, is known as being a seed or a steed of witches, fairies, and even the devil, and has a stem that is poisonous to livestock. Now, the plant is also incredibly invasive and grows in infertile soils where little else will thrive. So like a weed, literally. It is easily possible to see how different types of witches might have formed allegiances with the spirits of these plants. Likewise, sorghum, also known as broomcorn, is famous for its ergot outbreaks. Some species of sorghum also have hydrogen cyanide in the early stages of their growth, and that's not good in big amounts. Now, in amounts lethal to grazing animals. Plants that are under stress can contain lethal doses of cyanide. So if it's endangered, or if it's, on the verge of becoming extinct, just be careful. Be careful with it. Now, even later in their growth, so sorghum is both a food crop and a potentially deadly poison. You don't have to think too hard to imagine how a healer or a helper of this type could be relevant to the ambiguous dead and witches who work with them. So it's really, really good to see the kind of the malignant, associations with the plants, and then the beneficial ones, the good ones. So, now, many people who engage the spirit of witchcraft in modern times, trying to tap into traditional cunning arts, look to connect with a fetched beast or animal formed familiar, but due practically, or partially, to the modern drug culture, very few people are able to look at the entheogens. So we use this term here rather than hallucinogens because it suggests their sacred function. So yeah, the plants, people have ruined it. This culture has ruined it, the culture of drugs. So, now, in anything other than a materialistic and a consumeristic manner, they look at the plants, marijuana, or magic mushrooms, like a product that they can get some fun sensation out of. Instead, if one wishes to cultivate plant familiars and learn to ride plants, it would be better to master the art of riding those that don't have such potent inner fire, the non-entheogens. So, these spirits, the spirits of these plants, are not so powerful and less likely to end up riding you. So it's kind of getting into that lily padding of, well, I'm going to use this herb because it makes me feel really good, but then I'm going to be burnt out on it, so I can't ride that herb anymore. I have to, lily pad to the next one. It's not good. Now, and if you are going to use particular herbs in protective sorcery, or any other type of sorcery for that matter, it would pay in the form of stronger outcomes to become familiar with the non-ordinary dimension of the plant first. So, every aspect of that plant, get to know it, meditate with it. Literally, if it's not poisonous, hold it in your hands, really, just build a rapport with it. So I think it's beautiful. Now, when it comes to knowing one of the smaller plant spirits, the first good step is to grow one, although it is possible to commune with the spirit of a plant just from ingesting it, or smoking it, or even using it in sorcery. It is far more powerful if you can know the plant throughout its growth and harvest from it in a sacred manner. Now, like hemp and stuff like that, that's something that a lot of people here in America can do now because it is legal a lot of places. So you can actually, cultivate it yourself and see what goes into it, and you have a special relationship with those plants. You have to. All plants, you have to talk to them, be with them, with my plants, I played music for them. So, now you will need to spend time with that plant in a semi-entranced state. Speak with it and let it know of your desire to work with it at a spiritual level. Ask it ask it to show you how it wishes to be seen. So often the active spirit of the plant will appear as a human or an animal. Now, it may offer you prayers or songs that you can use to rouse it when you wish to harvest it. Use it for medicine or charms. So, anything it offers you by way of help should be greeted with offerings. Always. So, it is best if you think of this plant as an embodiment helper spirit. So anything that you use it for will be doubtly powerful on account of this. Now, when you have become proficient at this with at least one non-entheogen, you might want to start getting to know a psychoactive plant at a spiritual level. Now, of course, many of these plants are restricted by law, such as marijuana, salvia divinorum, peyote, and magic mushrooms, among others, which magic mushrooms are now legal in many states, and so is medical marijuana. So it would be wise to look into what plants you may legally utilize in your state. So he says for here, I would not want to suggest that someone break a law, which is, very good advice. Now, having conducted research into legalities, it is then necessary to either encounter the plant as dried, sample, or seek it in the woodlands. Now, as in the case with various species of mushrooms, the first thing that you should remember if you intend to approach a plant that is an entheogen and try to convince it to become your helper, it is that you needn't consume it to begin working with it. Entheogens are just little spirits. but whole and powerful teaching intelligences in their own right. They will teach you how to ride them correctly if you show them the proper respect. If you treat them in a consumerist manner, which most people do, they will simply consume you in return. So yeah, there's a lot to think about with that one. Now, the first things that you should seek to understand about any plant that you deal with is the nature of its power. Does this plant have a chthonic quality about it? Or is it associated with fairies, or light, or healing? Is its reputation sinister or holy? What does it smell like? Skunk. A lot of you might get that. I love it. And what are its physical properties? These are the same questions we ask ourselves when dealing with the little spirits of the plant kingdom, but we must ask them all over again when dealing with the great teaching intelligences, and we must be very careful. So because when you seek to achieve your trance via a power plant, you are in fact riding the trance of that teaching intelligence rather than your own. So one must be fully aware of the leg up that they are receiving. Now, with something like a mushroom, whether it is the Psilocybin mushroom or the Amanthia muscaria, you are clearly looking at a power that links one to subterranean regions. So mushrooms by nature are an interconnected fungus that thrives in damp, mossy environments, like my cornfield now, among the forest leaf litter. Yeah, we have a lot of that around here. A lot. So their power is therefore about connecting you with the physical web of living beings and helping you to descend into the underworld and talk with the dead. But there are differences still between the red and white spotted Amanita mushroom and the gold-topped psilocybin. Now, the Amanita's power is darker and earthier, whereas there is more fire in the gold top. The gold top allows us access to the fire, within the earth. It's intense. It's very intense, while it's still being very earthy. There is something very fey or fairy about this mushroom. It has been my experience, he says, that they will only reveal themselves to the right person and can be missed in the forest by others. It is also important to note that if you are someone who springs, as this person does, from a European ancestry, and I actually do have European ancestry in me, and I didn't know it. It was almost likely these two forms of mushrooms that were the entheogens used by our ancestors. So, other entheogens such as marijuana, the holy status of this herb is immediately given away by its name, Lady Mary, which probably references the Basque goddess Marie, though it uses its current restricted in most countries. Well, actually not now. So, contain an extremely potent fiery nature. People who find that they have helpers or an original self that appear to them with sky-based imagery will usually be ones to find this herb the most potent helper, and yet at the same time these people are the most in danger from the misuse of it. So you just use it. Yeah, if you're going to use medical marijuana, use it. If it's legal in your state, make sure it's legal and make sure you follow your rules and don't become you can become addicted to it psychologically. Now, abuse of this helper plant is so widespread in our culture that it can be difficult to establish a sacred use of it in people who have come to see it as a source of recreation. If one does choose to try to learn to ride this plant, they will need to be very careful that they do not burn themselves out, lily padding, or you're going to have to find something stronger, and that's not fun. That's not good for you. So, regular breaks from it should be taken, especially in the early stages of walking our path. And he says here, I have encountered enough people who fail to take this into account, these warnings, that I am hesitant to even recommend its use. So that says a lot. This is a lot about a traditional witch being hesitant about a use of a plant. Now, as far as entheogens go, flying ointment is probably the best known of plant-based methods of achieving the witch's flight. Several recipes exist, all of which are extremely dangerous, but likely to be effective in the right dose. So don't try them, because you don't know. We don't know the doses, we don't know the measurements, none of it, so just be careful. This is historical. This is for purposes of history only and learning. Now, they contain both hallucinogenic and narcotic ingredients, which means that awareness of the daily body is likely to be completely cancelled and the potency of otherworldly flight therefore greatly enhanced. Yes. So that explains a lot of why I get a lot of good readings done at night. Obviously, only a trained naturopath of medical herbalist would really be qualified to properly put one together. So if you're not an herbalist, don't put one together. Maybe one that's like a non-narcotic, non-invasive plant. So whether we choose to try to construct a safe flying ointment, which we should, today we can certainly understand that deadly poisons like belladonna and aconite would bring people closer to the borders of the world of the dead. And it is known that these plants, when used together, link the witch directly to the experience of the grand Sabbath and spirit flight. So, we also know, given the strong place of ointments in witchcraft, either applied directly to the body, or on the riding pole or broom, going as far back as the account of the witches in the Golden Ass nearly 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, older than Christianity. The writing plant helpers has always been an aspect of this art. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about writing plants? It's very interesting. It's a very good thing to do. It's a very good way to get in touch with plants, get in touch with other worlds, dimensions. I mean, you can do so much with it, but don't abuse it. You know, if it's legal in your state, don't abuse it. Use it, I can't do it. I mean, I couldn't do it during the day. I couldn't imagine being, stoned out of my mind during the day. I couldn't. I have to be fully aware of my body. Because when I do my body, it's like you're just kind of here. And then the mind soars, and you can just, sense all kinds of different things. And, I really do use it for a spiritual purpose at night, and also to help me sleep better. So I also use it for my PTSD, I use it for my fibromyalgia, I use it for the brain fog, for the headaches, for the constant pain in the jaws, for the constant global body pain. So there's one aspect of the physical, of the medicinal properties of that herb to help somebody. So if you have, say, Crohn's disease, if you have lupus, if you have all these, autoimmune diseases like, diabetes, that is a really good source. Only for certain people, though. It's not for everybody, and it's not legal in every state. So just make sure you follow your state guidelines and don't break any laws, and, be, a respectful, human being to your state. And, yeah, just don't get in trouble. Try safer alternatives. If you have to, go to there's a person, a lady, you can get your hair plucked, and they can tell you what kind of amino acids and vitamins and different minerals that are missing in your body to actually get you harmonized again. So these are trained medical professionals in the herbology world. So I would go with the safer route. I would honestly go with the safer route. Don't smoke anything. Just go with the safer. But, alright guys, you guys know I love my plants, so I think there will be more of this to come. I do have some, experiences with plants, putting them in singing bowls, kind of empowering them more, Baphomet's broccoli, all of that good stuff. So, alright, my 20-minute mark is coming, so I love you guys. Thank you guys for all your comments. You guys are amazing. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I love you guys all with all my heart, all the way from Venus, always, all the way back down. So I love you guys. Please be safe, stay healthy, all that good stuff. And I love you all so much. And I had a really good time in chat yesterday. So I love you guys very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.